Hey, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another session of The Sanctuary. This is our space for reflection, growth, and connection. You know I'm your girl and guide, Mariah Myles, licensed therapist, minister, and overall creative, and I am so glad that you're here with me today. You know that we're diving into that multifaceted concept of regenerative healing and the vital role of self-compassion and how it plays into that transformational process, right? We're still in April. We're still doing this thing. So sit back, relax. It is time to tune in. And I know you tuned into our last session, so you'll remember our discussion on emotional regulation and how stretching ourselves emotionally can lead to growth. But if you didn't catch that session, why don't you go back a little and pick up on that? But today we're going to explore how self-compassion, which is our theme for April, continues to allow us to engage with our emotions, and how we learn from our experiences and foster that personal growth. So what the heck is regenerative healing? It's not just about recovery. It involves this profound transformation. And from a psychological perspective, it really emphasizes that resilience, learning from our challenges and using those lessons for our own personal growth, how we support ourselves and others. Spiritually, it also invites us to connect with our inner selves, right? Something greater, whether that's nature or community or a higher purpose. This connection provides a sense of meaning in our healing journeys. Humanistically, it really highlights our innate potential for growth and self-actualization, because every experience really contributes to who we are becoming. And it's not a final destination. We are constantly becoming. And really, let's not forget that role of emotional safety, because feeling safe or safe enough, both within ourselves and in our environments, plays a really big role in that healing. It allows us to sit with that discomfort and process our feelings without fear. Kind of like having maybe like a safety blanket, a safety net. But I'm going to go with safety blanket. And as I'm saying it, I'm thinking of a really cozy blanket. And if I'm being real, I'm thinking about this blanket I used to carry around with me when I was like 3 or 4. Until my mother got sick of it, cut it into a tiny square, and it blew in the wind at the preschool yard. Obviously, I'm not over that. But I'm not getting activated as I talk about it, so maybe I am. I'm just playing mom if you're hearing this. So where was I? I wonder what creates that sense of safety or safe enough feeling within you. We don't always need to have a sense of solitude or silence for healing. In fact, connecting with others is actually quite powerful, if not more so. Think about it. How often have you had a really tough day, and then maybe you hit up your friend or somebody close to you, and just chatting with them kind of turn things around? It's almost like this magical ability to help us see the bright side, even if it's just like making us laugh. Because connection can provide so much support and understanding, and sometimes even that good dose of humor just releases all that tension. And just remember that friend who makes everything feel lighter, they're like that emotional equivalent to my blankie. Actually, I don't remember what I used to call it. So sharing our experiences in that way can really help us feel less alone. And when we open up to others, we create a sense of community that really fosters that healing. It's like forming a small little emotional support group, right? And sometimes I feel like the word healing rubs people the wrong way. Like, oh, am I going to be in years of healing? Is it, emotional turmoil? But if you get a paper cut, you can physically see it, and you can see the metamorphosis it has to take for its healing, right? And sometimes we have experiences that create the same thing, but it's internal. And since we can't see it, we might dismiss it. But what happens to things that don't necessarily heal properly? Right? It's like I heard this a few years ago. Somebody was talking about how they got an X-ray and on their arm, and the doctor was like, "Oh, you broke your bone here." And the person was like, "Yeah, but that was like when I was a kid." But the idea that you can still see it decades later. That's what healing is. Things are still there. So while solitude has its place, because don't underestimate that power, there's also something really significant with that laughter and companionship. And just kind of make sure that you're not venting to that one friend who always turns it into a competition or dismisses you or, turns it into something bigger than it is. But can they listen to you? Can they actively listen to you? I want to share something that is really personal, but I think I've kind of briefly touched on it. But recently I faced a significant loss. It was a breakup, a divorce. And any time that there's a transition, it is a loss. Even when it's for the greater good, because transitions can be incredibly difficult. Am I right? And initially I felt overwhelmed by my emotions, right? I let myself feel them because, I know the protocol. But then sometimes I recognize that I really hesitated to confront them. And so I can take them out, but then I have to contain them because maybe it's too overwhelming. I got all this stuff I got to do. And let me pile some more stuff on my plate too, right? Which could be just a distraction from confronting those emotions, sitting with them. And so a couple of weekends ago, I had some friends over. And their presence really kind of helped keep those feelings at bay. But let me tell you, once they left and I was alone, bam, those emotions, they surge back up. And sometimes when you push things away so much, they can surge up like an enormous tidal wave. Have you ever experienced that whirlwind of feelings when you're finally alone? It's like the silence is a spotlight on every thought you were trying to avoid, every feeling you were stamping down. We all want uncomfortable feelings to cease, right? They don't feel good. But when we create space for our feelings through mindfulness and self-compassion, we allow shifts to occur. Recognizing what was happening, I turned off the noise and scheduled a walk. I do my best thinking on walks because of that, something about that movement, but I can also do it in stillness too. But giving my feelings the attention that they deserved, that was the important piece here. This moment of vulnerability that allowed me to connect more deeply with myself. embracing my feelings really opened the door to this sense of inspiration and creativity, a transformational discomfort into this opportunity for growth, right? It's like a kundalini rising. When you transition from one thing to another, this sense of energy that fills the space is different. And to help us integrate these concepts, let's engage in a little somatic practice. And this one's called the self-hug. So, of course, I invite you to be mindful of the space that you're in and how you feel engaging in the environment in that way. Because this practice really allows us to connect with ourselves and cultivate that sense of compassion and warmth. So if this isn't the right time for you, maybe wait until there is a moment where you can be vulnerable, carving out that time in your day. I invite you to place your right hand near your rib cage, kind of by your heart. And your right fingertips might slip and slide a little bit under your armpit on your left side. Just kind of settle for a moment, feeling the weight of your hand there. And then take your left hand and place it on the outside of your right upper arm. Just gently. Noticing what that feels like for a moment. And perhaps you gently squeeze your hand just to feel the edges of where your palms connect with your body. Maybe you take a deep inhale through your nose, and as you exhale, allowing yourself to kind of flex inwards, allowing your body just to kind of curl into itself. And if it feels good, you might close your eyes. Just noticing what it feels like to breathe like this. As you hold yourself in this way, just feeling the rise and fall of your chest, your torso. And gently take a deep breath in through your nose. Imagine that with each inhale, you're drawing in love and compassion. And as you exhale, feeling your shoulders drop, let go of any tension or stress, allowing it to melt away. And if this feels good for you in this moment, maybe you continue to do that. And you can stay here. Or perhaps you add on a little. You might want to gently rock side to side, bringing in a little movement into your hug. What does it feel like to hold yourself close in this way? As you're in this space, take a moment to notice how you're feeling. You might say, It's okay to feel this way. I'm here for myself. And again, maybe you're here for a few breaths. Maybe you pause this session and be here for a little bit longer. That's entirely up to you. But when you feel ready, give yourself a little squeeze, feel a little firmness, and then gently release your arms and bring your awareness back to the room. If your eyes were closed, I invite you to open them again and take a moment to notice how you feel. As you incorporate this self-hug, it really kind of enhances that self-compassion, right? Did you feel it? I wonder what it was like for you. I've always really been into storytelling and sharing our experiences. Personally, I love to write and I love to read. When we share our stories, whether it's about grief or joy or everything in between, we really create this opportunity for connection. Our words create these ripples in a pond, right? And they can be touched by others in really unexpected ways. Think about those moments when you've heard someone share their story and when it resonated with you, what that felt like. For me, when I hear someone's story in a way that they're sharing with me, sometimes I feel comforted knowing that I'm not alone in my struggle. Like, man, that person's been there. Storytelling really fosters that empathy and understanding and reminds us that we all share the human experience. And I think sometimes we forget that. One of the beautiful things about storytelling is that it allows us to articulate our emotions. When we recount our experiences, we begin to process what we've been through, right? You might notice somebody's getting activated. Sometimes I'll pause a client and be like, what are you experiencing in this moment or when they're done? What were you experiencing then? Because our body doesn't know. It thinks it's happening again unless we've moved past those emotions. It really is like kind of flicking the light on in a really dark room, because now we can finally see what we're dealing with, right? And other people can too. But there's so many emotional benefits in sharing our stories. Sharing can be so cathartic. Do you know what I mean? It can lift this weight off of our shoulders, even if it's just for one moment. And I am laughing because I have so many clients who will be like, I'm the therapist in my group. Because that's what it's like when we share our stories with our friend. It's almost like having that mini therapy session. And there's always like that one friend that you go to. I remember in grad school, they asked us like, why are you here? Why do you want to be a therapist? And my professor called people out when they were like, Oh, my friends always, like, I like to listen to people and give them advice, and everyone always said I should be a therapist. I never had that experience, not to toot my own horn, but I didn't. I do like to listen to people. I'm very curious about people's lives and how they interact with one another, how people tick. But I thought it was interesting that the professor was like, well, that's not what being a therapist is about, giving people advice or, being the therapist in the group. I thought that was interesting. And the more that I practice, I recognize what she's saying. But here's the thing, storytelling can build a sense of community. We seem to open up about our experiences, so then we invite others to do the same. But we also invite others into our world. It creates this safe enough space where vulnerability is not only welcomed, but celebrated. We're not just venting to people, we are creating an experience. And you might find that someone else has gone through this similar experience, and so suddenly you have, somebody who really gets you. I feel really seen by this person. They're my support buddy, right? Like finding a partner in crime for this emotional journey. Like, oh, this person gets me. So how can we incorporate this idea of storytelling in our lives? I got a few ideas for you. Thanks for asking. Oh, how did you guess? You knew it. Journaling. Because this is a great way to start. Writing down your thoughts and your feelings. You don't have to be some sort of Shakespeare poet. Just let your words flow. And you might be surprised at the insights that emerge when you put pen to paper. Or, I guess, finger to phone in your notes. Whatever you do, just do it. Another idea that I was considering is having regular check-ins with your friends. Yeah, you can create that safe enough environment to share what you're going through. And maybe even make it a fun ritual. Creative expression. So if you're super artistically inclined, this might be right up your alley, but creative expression does not have to mean that. And I do feel like we are all artists. But channeling our feelings into art, music, dance, whatever that might mean to you, those little, it's not like paint by numbers, but they're like these little gems that you like glue down to something that has painted. I don't know. I've seen that recently. That's artistic. Your story doesn't have to be told in words. Sometimes a picture or a song can really say it all. What about photography? What could you emotionally express with photography? Sharing our stories not only helps us process our emotions, but it creates this sense of belonging. It reminds us that we're part of something bigger. We're all doing this together, but maybe apart. And sometimes it just helps to know that someone else is there in the same struggle or excitement that you are. And in this context of emotional regulation, sharing our journeys can help us understand our feelings better. When we articulate these emotions, we really begin to grasp all the layers, all the things that we didn't know were lurking there. We're recognizing new colors of our emotional palette, sometimes bright and cheerful, and Maybe other times it's a little murky. But really every color has a place in our story. So if you find yourself struggling, remember that your story is valid. It's valuable. Sharing it can inspire others to open up, continuing to foster the connections that can be incredibly healing. And as we wrap up this session, let's reflect a little bit. So you can take out your journals or sketchbook or whatever you're doing. And let's just sit with the idea, the importance of both self-compassion and connection in our healing journeys. What does that mean to you? What does that look like? Because healing is not a race. It's not that final destination. It is a process. And it's completely normal to experience these ups and downs, that hopefully we're embracing those moments with kindness and curiosity. Gently. Because every time we're healing from something, it's not going to look the same way that we healed from something else. So I'm sitting with these practical steps to kind of help you engage in regenerative healing. Just 4. 1, a mindfulness practice. I know I keep saying it, and I'm going to keep saying it, because dedicating a few minutes each day to mindfulness or meditation or whatever it is to be aware of your feelings without judgment, invite that in. Make more time for that. Number 2, journaling. Write about your emotions. Because when you can verbalize it, then you can share it with somebody else. And when you can share it with somebody else, then bam, deeper connection with that person. I lean into this a lot. I was doing this earlier when I noticed something coming up for me. But I was doing it in the way that this next idea, bullet pointing what I notice, right? To really help me clarify my thoughts. Sometimes I do it that way. So just quick bullet points. I was using the felt sense along with it. And it was quick. It was really brief. I think sometimes we get in our own way. Try it out. Number 3, self-compassion exercises, right? So incorporating those somatic practices and other practices that we've been talking about that really promote self-kindness, because the more we can remind ourselves that it's okay to feel discomfort, that we deserve compassion all the time, but especially during these tough times, we don't have to just suck it up and keep going. That's a gift. And number 4, find that support system. Don't hesitate to seek out support from friends and family, or even finding a therapist that you vibe with. Because having somebody witness you who is not involved in the situation, it is so helpful. I'm saying that as a person who holds space for others, but also a person who goes to therapy and has other people hold space for me. It feels really nurturing to be witnessed in that way. And sharing these experiences can really continue to create a sense of safety and connection within yourself. I think that there's many of us who have had a severed sense of safety within ourselves, a severed sense of connection within ourselves. from an early age, and we might have been going so long we haven't even noticed it. And the best support often comes with the side of laughter. So it's okay to be in the healing phase, but can you pause it, contain it, and also still enjoy life, right? When we dull one emotion, we dull all of the emotions. If you think about it as being a faucet, if I say I don't want to feel anger and I turn that off, I'm not going to feel the full extent of joy, right? That's such a disservice. So what's one thing that you're going to take away from our session today? I I have this quote that I'm thinking about sharing. It's from Michael A. Singer. It says, "The only thing you ever need to do to be free is to let go of the past." What do you think? Do you agree with this? I don't know, maybe creating that internal safe space allows for renewal. I think people often tell us like, oh, that was in the past, let it go. But missing a few steps, right? Because we don't really let it go unless we feel it. All right, y'all. Once again, thank you for being here on whatever channel you're joining by. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss a session here at the Sanctuary. Still welcoming your experience. I want to hear your sanctuary voice. What does healing look like for you? Or whatever else you got. I want to hear it. I'm here for it. You can connect at the Sanctuary with MoriahMyles at gmail.com. Altogether, no spaces. Or head over to the gram. That's my_Moriah. Until next time, embrace each breath. And remember, our bodies have this innate wisdom, the beautiful ability to heal itself. And we heal best in community. Love and light. Peace, y'all. While this podcast may feel like a therapeutic conversation, it is important to note that it is not a substitute for professional therapy or mental health. The information shared here is intended solely for educational purposes and should not be used as a replacement for personalized mental health care. Although I am a therapist, I'm not acting as your therapist in this setting. If you are in need of support, please reach out to a qualified mental health professional.